Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? This is the fourth time I'll be doing my finals predictions. The 2023 regular season for the National Telstra Premiership has come to an end, and it's time to go through our finals bracket. Now look, not to brag, but this is the video where I've shined. In the last three, I've gotten all three Premiership winners right. But if I don't tip your team, then don't dislike the video, because the way I usually get there, it isn't really that correct. But if there's one video I've got a reputation for, it is this one. So if I don't pick your team, please don't dislike the video. Dislike it if it's a shitty video. But if you do enjoy it, then make sure you smash that like button, drop your comments down below. Who is you in your 2023 NRL Grand Final? Who are your 2023 NRL Telstra Premiership winners? And, of course, subscribe if you haven't already. We are back, baby. Lots of love on the Bunnies video. Go check that one out, especially if you're a Roosters fan. But it's time to start cracking into this bracket. Now, the good thing about doing this is that it also counts as my finals week one tips. So, let's get straight into it. On Friday night, the Brisbane Broncos, for the first time since 2019, they make a return to finals footy, looking for their first finals win since 2017. Can you believe it? It's been that long since the Brisbane Broncos won an NRL Finals game, and guess what? That game was against the Penrith Panthers in week two. A baby Penrith Panthers. They're taking on, some finals residents, the Melbourne Storm. And just so you know where this tipping video is going, just so you know where my predictions are going, sorry Brisbane fans, I am taking the Melbourne Storm. Look, this game is going to be close, but I just think the experience of the Melbourne Storm will get them across the line. This game certainly won't be a blowout. If it does turn into a blowout, then the only team I can really see winning by that sort of a score is the Brisbane Broncos, because if the Melbourne Storm try to blow out the Brisbane Broncos, then I don't think that Brisbane's forward pack is going to let them. Because while I do think you can make the argument Penrith still have the most dominant forward pack, with Moses Leota and Fisher Harris, just the way they impose themselves on other forward packs, on form and by the players, I actually think Brisbane, the way they've been playing this year, have the best forward pack in the competition. But I just think Melbourne, Craig Bellamy, they're going to love the grind, and Brisbane, they're going to go with them. Broncos, their set completion hasn't been great throughout 2023, and if they chance their arm too many times, I think the Melbourne Storm could get the job done here, and I'm tipping them. I am tipping Melbourne. We're going rogue at the beginning. Brisbane just can't beat Melbourne at Suncorp. I think the only player that's still there from the last time they did it was, Corey Oates? I don't even know if he was there still. So, I'm taking the Melbourne Storm in a close one in Friday Night Footy. The second qualifying final is this early game on the Saturday, taking on the AFL Grand Final. So good luck to you. It's the Penrith Panthers. They're hosting the New Zealand Warriors. And as much as Abdulwah's fever is on fire, and I am certainly on the bandwagon, it's hard to see Penrith dropping week one of the finals. They're going to play this game like it's their season, because it'll give them the extra week off and give guys like Luai and other injured players a better chance to come back for that prelim final. And even if the Penrith Panthers are at 90%, no matter how good Shaun Johnson plays, I feel like the Penrith Panthers can get the job done. Now, I don't think it'll be 13 plus, because while I do think on paper, and while I do think that the Penrith Panthers should get the win, the Warriors have been shocking everyone all year. And if there's anyone who's going to be able to rattle Ivan Cleary, Nathan Cleary, and the Penrith Panthers, it's going to be the former assistant coach Andrew Webster, who's had some terrific, overall it's been an incredible coaching performance, but in certain games, certain game plans, he has done a phenomenal job. And if anyone can rattle Penrith, it's going to be Andrew Webster's boys. But no, I'm going to take Penrith, and I'm going to take him just under 13 plus. Now we've got the boring second chance games out of the way. Let's talk do or dies, because it's do or dies from here on out. And who thought the Sydney Roosters would be in a do or die final? First, at the start of the season, I thought there was no way they wouldn't finish in the top four. And now I can't believe they're playing finals footy, but they're going to have to go to Shark Park to take on the Cronulla Sharks. And I tell you what, while everyone has talked about how disappointing the Sydney Roosters have been, There is so much pressure on the Cronulla Sharks. They're at home. Wade Graham's career is on the line from here on out. And the Cronulla Sharks, after losing straight sets last year, if they can't get it done over the Sydney Roosters, then the pressure is well and truly going to be on them going into next year. The questions around Nico Hines are going to circle, and the questions around Craig Fitzgibbon may just start to beat. But he's taken on his former partner, Trent Robinson, the man he coached back-to-back premierships with. So this is going to be a cracker. In my opinion, this actually could end up being match of the round. As good as the Sydney Roosters run has been, though, I feel like Craig Fitzgibbon's going to know the game plan to beat the Sydney Roosters. They took so long to get going. They had such an emotional game last week. In saying that, they do have an 8-day turnaround just compared to the Sharks 6. Is that fair? Probably not. But hey, you're professional rugby league players. So this, in my opinion, is probably the hardest game to tip. But I'm just going to give it to the Cronulla Sharks. I feel like they're going to be up for this one. They're going into finals with some great form. They did do it last year and got lost in straight sets, but I feel like this is going to be Nico Hines' chance to shine on the big stage. And the final game of week 1, the Newcastle Knights, they're hosting the Canberra Raiders. Good luck getting a ticket to McDonald Jones Stadium. Newcastle's first home final since what? 2014, since Wayne Bennett was there, and we all know what Wayne Bennett did to the Newcastle Knights. That's how long it's taken them to recover, but they are taking on the Canberra Raiders, and I tell you what, the Canberra Raiders, while we're all sort of saying they're probably one of the worst final teams we've ever seen, there's a reason they're in the finals with such a poor for and against, and that's just because they find a way to win. Ricky Stewart is a darn good coach. This roster on paper, I know it's got a decent forward pack between Tapane, but they're not going to have Papali'i this weekend, and they're not going to have Corey Horsburgh this weekend. So I am going to tip the Newcastle Knights, but the Canberra Raiders, they definitely could do something special this Sunday. They love the grind. And who knows, maybe Newcastle, they fail once they get to the bright lights of finals footy. But I am pretty high on the Newcastle Knights. I know it's a long winning streak, so they've got to maintain that on top of making it into finals. But I tell you what, it's not 2021 Turbo-like. Maybe just because he has played as many games. But Kalen Ponga's season has been incredible. This may be a bit hyperbole, but if anyone can do a similar run to what a certain individual did for the Parramatta Eels in 2009, I tell you what, Kalen Ponga might just be able to, with his form at the moment, drag this Newcastle Knights side as far as they're willing to go. I am going to tip him in week 1, but I ain't so sure. I don't think $4.25 is as far as the Raiders are to win this game, because we haven't seen Newcastle win a finals game since, like I said, Wayne Bennett was there. So as good as they've been, as good as this winning streak has been, not only do they have to keep that winning streak alive, they've got to do it under the bright lights. But there is my week 1 tips. So after week 1, we've got the Penrith Panthers. They're advancing to the prelim, while the Warriors, they'll take on the Knights in week 2. The Broncos, they're going to fall short of Melbourne, which means they'll play week 2 against the Sharks, which takes Melbourne Storm to the prelim. So goodbye Raiders and goodbye Chookies. Week 2, that gives us the New Zealand Warriors. They'll be at home. Good luck getting a ticket to this one. They'll be taking on the Newcastle Knights. And like I just said, the Newcastle Knights, they're definitely capable of going on a run. But I'm not going to sit here and say the New Zealand Warriors are going out in straight sets. If there's any game that is pretty much a lock, at least it feels like to me, it's going to be when the Warriors are in New Zealand. And heck, if they knock off Penrith week 1, then holy heckers, that sets up one awesome prelim. So I'm going to take the Warriors over the Newcastle Knights in week 2. And the Broncos taking on the Sharks. Again, I can't see the Broncos losing in straight sets. They have been tied with Penrith. They've probably even been better than Penrith throughout most of this season. So I don't see them going in straight sets. That Broncos-Sharks game, if it does happen, it's going to be interesting. If Broncos have to play the Roosters, then holy heckers, that gets interesting. Because one team you don't want to play this final series, it probably is the Sydney Roosters. But I can't see any teams going out in straight sets this year. The top four has been the top four since it feels like, well, since the Bunnies fell out of it. This has been the top four that we've sort of realised was going to happen. And I feel like there is a bit of a gap between 4th and 5th place. So that sets up prelims of the Penrith Panthers and the Brisbane Broncos, the grand final 1 week early. I've absolutely ruined it for everyone. And while I know that Brisbane knocked off the Penrith Panthers all the way back in round 1 and was a highly competitive game, you think about how much better the Penrith Panthers have gotten since then. The Broncos have also improved by miles since round 1. But I just can't see the Penrith Panthers dropping a prelim final. Brisbane, if any team's going to be able to do it, it's probably them. They've got such a good footy side, and like I said, they're not going to get dominated. This forward pack, if anyone is going to be capable... I mean, look, they got dominated by the Eels, and if anyone's going to be able to dominate Penrith's forward pack like the Eels did, it's obviously the Brisbane Broncos. So I'm going to take the Penrith Panthers to win close. Nathan Cleary-Luai, they've done it before. Now, Reynolds has done it before, but can these Brisbane Broncos boys stand up? I know everyone says, well, they did it in Origin. It's easier for Paddy Carrigan, Reece Walsh, Selwyn Cobbo, these guys to stand up in Origin when you got DCE and Cameron Munster, two guys who have been peppering New South Wales for years, leading the charge, taking the brunt of the attack, and leading the way for that footy side. When you become the man for your team and it's finals footy, that pressure's back on. I'm not so sure if they're going to be able to handle it. I feel like they're going to be Penrith of 2020, where they're going to need to lose one to win one. But unfortunately, Brisbane fans, I don't see you making the GF. Now, if you do beat Storm week 1, then you definitely will be there. But unfortunately, that's not the way I have it playing out for you. So maybe it'll be a disappointing year for Brisbane, but holy heck, is the future will look bright. But the Penrith Panthers are the first team I have in the grand final. As for the team they're going to be up against, ladies and gentlemen, 2008, 2011, I've got the Melbourne Storm hosting the New Zealand Warriors. Who would believe it? Shaun Johnson was just a baby when he knocked off Cooper Cronk in the prelim. And after he wins the Dally M, and if he doesn't, it will be a disgrace. He has a chance to do it to another great Melbourne Storm player in Cameron Munster. Now, I do think that the Melbourne Storm will probably win this game. Same reasons I got them over the Broncos. And that week off, I mean, no, Parramatta did it last year. So that goes out the window, and Penrith literally did it the year before. So I was going to say the week off, it usually always means the team that had the week off wins, but that hasn't been the case. So while I would sit here and say Melbourne are definitely a team I think could win this game with my head, 2008, 2011. And if you're going to die doing what you love, if you're going to die tipping with your heart, then I'd rather go out with love, because I'm a lover. I'm a lover. So I am tipping the New Zealand Warriors to beat the Melbourne Storm. Shaun Johnson, go and do it again, because you're playing better now than you ever did in your career. You're playing better now than you did in 2011. I want you to shatter Jerome Hughes' ankles. I want you to shatter Cameron Munster's ankles. Don't do it to Pappy. We need Pappy back for next year. We need mullets back in fashion. But yes, I am tipping the Warriors to beat the Melbourne Storm in another prelim. Call me a sucker for the story, but my grand final for 2023 is the Penrith Panthers versus the New Zealand Warriors. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I said it in the preseason, and there's no way I'm changing. The Penrith Panthers will three-peat in this 2023 NRL season, back-to-back premiers. Nathan Cleary cements himself as one of the greats already. We won't do Clive Church and that sort of stuff, because let's be honest, Penrith New Zealand Warriors grand final, you could argue a little bit of a pipe dream. But either way, out of all these teams, I see the Penrith Panthers winning the premiership. They've won more finals games in the last 4 years than every other single team in this final series combined. So if anyone's going to know what it takes, it's the Penrith Panthers. Last year, they did it convincingly. The year before, they couldn't score a point to save their lives, and they defended their way to victory. Their defense is absolutely insane. I do think that the Brisbane Broncos, on their day, are the only team that could really beat the Penrith Panthers. In saying that, if the Warriors were to beat them, I'd be a little happy camper. But I'm tipping the Penrith Panthers to three-peat. Ladies and gentlemen, who do you think in the 2023 NRL Grand Final? Let me know in that comment section below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any finals content. And I'll see you in the next one.